What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. Today, joined by Jared and Adrian from Alamo Audible or Republic. I'll let Jared plug the latest of where you can find their football stuff. But before we get into all that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football or G5 football, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. Okay, boys, thank you so much for jumping on. This is the favorite one of mine of the season. And Adrian, you being a new dad, I know it's a sacrificial, to get you on here. So I appreciate it. But Jared, where can everybody find your guys' football stuff currently?
Yeah, sure. So I think since the last time we've come on, we've had quite a few changes. We've been really, 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 really busy. Phil Batson always asked me to come on the show like 5 times, like over the past couple months. I was like, dude, I just do not have time. I'm sorry. So we're no longer Alamo Dome Audible. We're now Alamo Audible. City of San Antonio's got some ferocious lawyers that don't like you to use the word Alamo Dome for commercial purposes. But the Alamo is surprisingly cool. They're pretty chill. So we got their blessing. So we're now Alamo Audible. Website's now alamoaudible.com. And our football podcasts are now on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Republic of Football podcast network. So if you guys want to check out our episode this week, it'll be there, as well as podcasts for each FBS school in the state of Texas. And I'm sure most people know there's UNT show on there as well, the Green Room. So
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Matthew Bruni and Colin, they do a great job there
mhm.
too. Um, all right, we'll just kind of jumping right into to this game. I think it might be the biggest one of the very short tenure of the Morris era as far as this UTSA game goes. If you could pull off the upset, it would be quite the spring. But jumping into UTSA side of things, Frank Harris, I know he's battled through some adversities and injuries, and there was speculation that maybe he even thought about not playing this final year, and I don't know how much truth that was, but how's he doing as far as you guys know? What is he continuing to mean for this offense, and just what does he bring to this game specifically?
Man, he definitely went through a lot of adversity over the offseason. And it was really evident in the way that he was performing those first 2 weeks in September. We didn't have 100% Frank. Man, we maybe barely had 60% Frank. And now in October, he's found his stride, probably still far from being 100% as he was in 2021 and 2022. But at his age, how many years he's been playing, the number of injuries he's withstood, I don't think it's realistic to expect him to ever be back at 100%. Not with what's happened to his knees, and not with just the number of miles that man has put into a Road Runners uniform and repping the city of San Antonio. But dude, he's playing electric. Despite 2 pick sixes in the last 2 weeks, you can kind of toss those aside. He's had phenomenal football games in the state in the month of October, and I think that's because he had those 3-4 weeks of rehab in the back half of September, and then we had a long break with the bye week at the end of out of conference play to get him nursed up, get him rehabbed. Now Frank is when he's playing the way that he's playing now, even if it's not at 100%, even with the 85%, 90% Frank Harris, UTSA is a threat to go toe to toe with anyone in this conference. That includes Tulane, that includes UNT and SMU, right? And so he's looked really, really good throwing the ball. He's been a lot more sound with his decision making. We even saw him slide on a couple of scrambles last week. We've never seen him slide before. He usually just ducks that shoulder down and embraces the contact, loves the collision. But he's getting a little more savvy, getting a little more smart with how he's got to treat his body, his health, and treat the football, man. So we saw him slide. We're seeing him be a little more cerebral, not take too many bad sacks, getting rid of the ball well. And his delivery's, I think, gotten crispier week over week. Like that first conference game against Temple, a couple of bread loaves out there. He threw the ball well, but it wasn't really, really crisp. And I think week over week through October, you're seeing his passes just get a little bit tighter. He's finding those windows again. And he still has plenty of targets to work the ball to. And that includes some rookie guys too. You look at a Devin McEwen coming out here, kind of not taking the place of JT Clark, but filling in those empty shoes that were left, right? With him battling that injury, and you lose Zakari Franklin transfer portal. You still got Oscar Cardenas to throw the ball to. You still got Joshua Cephas, who now leads the program in receptions all time. So Frank Harris is absolutely distributing the ball beautiful. He's passing the ball beautiful. He's making great decisions, and he's looking like the same old Frank that took us to back-to-back conference championships these last 2 seasons.
Yeah, after we get done previewing this game specifically, I want to really, get into some weeds. Got some questions for you about, you know, all Frank Harris related and Coach Trailor related. But as far as UTSA's run game, um, North Texas has struggled. I think we're around dead last in defending the run. So how is UTSA's run game this year?
I think it's been probably better than expected, I would say. So I think most UNT fans are probably familiar with Kivorian Barnes. He's had a couple big games against North Texas. Really strong running back. Had a great freshman year last year. He's been a little bit maybe less than expected this year, to be honest. I think he's averaging like 4.5 yards per carry, which isn't bad, but he's not been as explosive as he was last season, I don't think. But there have been some new additions that have really popped in that running back room. Primarily Robert Henry. He was the top rated JUCO running back last season. He just made an immediate impact at UTSA. It's way out, exceeded my expectations. Crazy fast. I would definitely compare him to I was getting the name wrong. Aye Adoye, the running back in North Texas.
Oh yeah, Io Day. Yeah,
Ayo
yeah.
Day. I flipped some syllables there. But he's like that kind of running back, man. Like really, really flashy. He had a touchdown against ECU last week where he just like ran sideways and they couldn't catch him. It was crazy. So he's really, really impressive. Big play back. And then Rocco Griffin, a Vanderbilt transfer, has been really solid as well. He had like a 56-yard run against ECU or something like that against a loaded box. So he's been great. And then offensive line, I would say they're kind of like middling when it comes to run blocking. Like they're not a detriment, but they're also not like incredibly impressive. But overall, the run game has been pretty solid, and it just kind of depends on how the defense is going to play them. If they're going to stack the box, they're going to have to throw the ball more. But for those teams that have played with, maybe just one linebacker in there or the safeties up high, UTSA has been able to move the ball pretty good on the ground. And I think they'll probably have success against North Texas this week doing the same.
Adrian, if you had to guess, what do you think the plan will be for UTSA offensively against this North Texas defense?
We all just forecasted it right there, right? Struggling in rushing defense, UTSA thriving with his three-headed monster in the backfield. You have to rely on the run game to create that separation from North Texas and let Frank Harris and his passing game be complementary. We saw kind of an odd distribution last week, and granted, ECU's run defense is really, really stout. And so I think you saw the playbook get a little bit adjusted due to that. But when in our other conference games and the games that our offense has really looked the best, it's been using the run to open up the pass, getting the yards with our feet first. And so I think that has to be key. You got to use Kivorian Barnes, Robert Henry, Rocco Griffin to really sort of beat down and wear down UNT on defense, and then let Frank Harris fall back in the pocket and throw whenever he needs to. But don't rely on him to have to do every single thing like he's had to the last two seasons. So I think, run first, let Frank do what he does after that and complement to that. And UTSA should just be fine handling business in Denton, though we haven't handled business in Denton in about 10 years. So I don't know what it is about that place, but there's something very, very strange whenever this team has to travel up to Dallas-Fort Worth to South Oklahoma and play you guys. Call it a curse, but there's something up, and it's got to be broken this year.
Did you just say the Metroplex in South Oklahoma? Did you just slide that in there?
Didn't? Yeah. USO, right? Or UNT, South Oklahoma, right?
South Oklahoma. Oh my god. Oh,
It's not as Denton that UTSA struggled in either. But like when they've played in Dallas and Fort Worth in bowl games, they've looked awful too. I mean, just something about the Metroplex, it just turns this team on its head. I don't know what it is.
So
crazy.
So to get your fans something to gnaw on, we're 0-4 playing Denton, or playing in Denton, playing UNT in Denton. We're 0-4 since 2013, and then you tack on 2 bowl losses in First Responder Bowl and the Frisco Bowl. So in the Metroplex altogether, 0-6 since our very first trip out there in 2013. 1-6 all time.
So Morris has to defend Denton and keep the tradition going, I guess. So defensively, obviously Trey Moore, he's a freak, but kind of is there anyone besides Trey Moore that really stands out on this UTSA defense and that you're forecasting that's going to give North Texas a hard time, Jared?
Well, yeah, there's a Jamori Robinson has kind of emerged a little bit this season as another pass rusher.
You guys,
Some
yeah, he was almost a North Texas commit. That was a big recruiting battle that
Man's a lot
UTSA
of
won.
guys like that,
Yeah.
that Devin McEwen receiver that Adrian
Mm-hmm.
just mentioned, his other finalist was North Texas as well.
Yeah.
It's always fun when those recruiting battles play out. And I heard that
Exactly.
Anderson safety for you guys had a really good game last week, and that was another guy that I
Oh
really
yeah.
wanted to UTSA, and I know
Yeah.
who's looking at him. So it's always fun when those kind of translate onto the field as well. I think it makes the rivalry even more fun. But yeah, Jamori Robinson, he started to put it all together. Definitely not anywhere near his ceiling. When you look at his like athletic potential, just like how freakishly athletic he is, but he started to get to the quarterback. So sometimes him and Trey will be on the field at the same time on third and long, and sometimes they'll rotate in and out. But he's done a good job getting after the quarterback this year. Another new name that North Texas fans may not be familiar with is Cam Alexander. So he was a transfer from Sam Houston State, and had a really good career there at Sam. And he's one of those guys that took the redshirt year for Sam because they weren't eligible for the playoffs and ended up at UTSA's day one starter. Has probably been the best player in the secondary this year. So we'll see how he does if he's up against like Roderick Burns or someone like that. Really good passing offense for UNT. So he'll be the one to watch. I think if he can make some plays, they'll be okay. But outside of that, the secondary is a little shaky for sure.
Okay, so I think the spread's at 8 points. So, Adrian, in your opinion, what does North Texas have to do to pull off this upset?
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, I think there is a few cracks in UTSA's passing defense in the secondary. We played well so far in conference play, but I don't think we've seen like a really big passing threat to us either since coming into conference in September. And so I think if you guys can go out there and get a couple of big plays early in the game, that's going to sort of put UTSA on their heels, a situation that they really, really don't want to be in. And it's going to come on to the turnover battle as well. UTSA struggled to get a turnover through the first 5 weeks of this season, 5 games. And now finally we're starting to get them in bunches. Can they sustain that in Denton? I don't know. If Denton can go out there and win a turnover battle and pop off, a couple of 30, 40-yard touchdown plays, big plays downfield, we're really going to have our backs against the wall. And we haven't had to see this UTSA team climb out of a deficit and do so successfully this year. I don't want to be in that situation in Denton where we've got to climb out of a deficit and try to get a win. I don't know if this team is capable of doing that in Denton or altogether, period. We've gotten out to leads and we've sustained those leads and just kind of paraded off of that success through the rest of the 4 quarters. But we do our good damage in the first half and then we're able to just kind of continue it on. If this is a game where UTSA is down 2 possessions in the first half or at any point at that matter, I don't know. I don't know if we have that comeback ability in us.
Okay, before we get into all the UTSA weeds and stuff here, both of you, Jared, you can tee off first here, but if you would give a score prediction, and also I really want to hear your guys' perspectives, from an opposing team's fan bases. Would you rather play a Luttrell team in this game, or are you more concerned with a Morris team in this game? But Jared, if you can give us a score prediction and any thoughts on that.
For score prediction, I definitely think it's gonna be a close game. I think UTSA will win, but probably not cover the spread. So something like 41-35, something like that. Last possession game. Main reason why I pick UTSA is I think UTSA's defense has 1 or 2 more stops in them than the North Texas defense has. That's really all it boils down to for me. Similar to how we saw, the Memphis and Tulane games for North Texas. Offensively they can go blow for blow. But those other 2 defenses just had a little bit more juice in the tank, through 4 quarters. For me, man, I don't know. If I had to say what I was really scared of, it would be a Latrell team with Chandler Rogers at quarterback. I think that would be like the nightmare scenario. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Eric Morris yet to feel very confident. But I did think Latrell's teams were very well coached and probably more talent on the roster last year, but kind of got screwed with the transfer portal there with Morris coming in and some guys leaving late and stuff like that. So too early for me to assess, I would say.
Jared, you got a couple more points on the board than I'm anticipating, but I think you're right. I don't think UTSA beats the spread. I think it's a tight one. I've got 33-28 Roadrunners. It's going to be a little bit back and forth, but ultimately a defensive battle, certainly that UTSA is able to hold off. And I think you bring up a great correlation. You know, UNT has suffered these one possession losses in so many games this year that are against really good teams. You got Memphis, you got UNT, the one against Navy. I think that was a 3-point difference at the end of that one. So I mean, dude, they have the fight in them. They got some dogs out there. And I know this game is circled on the schedule. You're probably going to get the best dose of Mean Green that you've seen all season. I'd rather play a Seth Luttrell team. This team looks a lot scarier to me. I don't know if Seth Luttrell's team goes toe-to-toe with the Tulane or Memphis. And we beat Seth Luttrell's team twice. I mean, you guys beat us in Denton, sure, ruined the undefeated season. But I think UTSA knew what to expect and could game plan against Seth Luttrell. But with the new head coach, a new look on offense, yeah, you've got, you know, a half of a season worth of film already on them. But at the end of the day, this is a new team. It's a new offense, new defense, new head coach, new playbook. So I think that thing definitely makes things a little bit scarier.
Kind of looking past this game for UTSA, I've been kind of watching, keeping up on Twitter and stuff. And it seemed earlier in the season, maybe, some of the fans, it just UTSA was experiencing some victim of their own or consequences of their own success, whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, now they're undefeated in conference play, right?
Yep, 4-0.
Correct.
Yeah, so 4-0 in conference play. So how do you guys feel about UTSA's conference title shots this year? And, do you think, do you guys think you will stay undefeated in conference up until that Tulane game?
I think the way they're playing right now, I think they'll be favored in every game up until Tulane. It's going to be a really tough road game. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere, probably sold out, in New Orleans. Looking more likely it's going to be that 2:30 ABC. Might be the first time UTSA ever plays on a 3-letter network. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think right now with the talent the team has, Trey Moore is just such a game changer. He's probably worth a touchdown alone as a defensive end, which is nuts. Frank is getting healthier every week. He had a couple runs against ECU last week where it's like, okay, kind of starting to look like Frank Harris again. He actually caused a missed tackle, which we hadn't seen all year up until that. So yeah, I would say I'm pretty bullish on the team's chances. I really like the focus that they're showing right now. I give them a lot of credit for beating ECU, and I know that sounds weird because they're a really bad team. They're 1-6 or whatever, but they came out for blood, man. They threw the kitchen sink at UTSA. They were trying to start fights. They're really scrappy, and I thought UTSA did a great job of responding to that. So if they're able to maintain that same mental focus, if you will. Then yeah, I could definitely see them running the table up until Tulane. I'll probably still pick Tulane in that game unless things go off the rails for the Green Wave. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from UTSA these past few weeks for sure.
Yeah, UTSA should definitely be favored. We've got a brutal road stretch here. You got to go to Denton to play UNT, and then you got to go to Houston to play a really, really good Rice team.
That one's in San Antonio.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, I thought that was I thought we had a road trip there. Oh, that makes me a little more bullish on the Rice game then.
But yeah, Rice is no pushover.
That's a Rice team that beat U of H, the same U of H team that UTSA lost to in week 1.
Yep.
So I honestly think, man, this game really does decide, because Jared talks about how scrappy of a win it was against ECU. I think this game is going to get really scrappy. We've seen these two teams have a lot of extracurriculars go down, especially last season, the two matchups that we had last season going on the sidelines, all the way up into the Alamo Dome tunnels and the locker rooms. These guys don't like each other. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of emotion involved here. And I don't know if UTSA has the mental discipline to withstand that sort of scrappy matchup 2 weeks in a row. They should be able to. But I think this game really, really decides a lot. UTSA's got bowl eligibility on the line. If you can win in Denton for the first time in 10 years and claim bowl eligibility in Denton to do so, that's going to be extremely fulfilling for this team. And I think a tremendous confidence boost into going into November and the last quarter of the season. Yeah, we should be able to knock off a UNT, a Rice, and a USF. But these next 2 weeks are going to be brutal. And then you got to go face Tulane. Tulane, man. Yeah, I'm with Jared on that one. I'm not sure if UTSA is a favorite or if I can even pick UTSA to win that game. But with the way that we're playing now, as I said earlier, no reason why we can't go toe to toe and at least hold up with anybody in conference, including Tulane.
And if North Texas beats, or if UTSA beats North Texas this week, like you just alluded to, and gets the bowl eligible, that's gonna be a lot of cheese. That's tempting to eat,
Mhm.
if that happens. But
Yeah, I thought that they were going to look sloppier against ECU because I was definitely seeing some cheese consumption after the big win against FAU. They've been saying that they've been keeping receipts of all the fans and media people that have been, criticizing the team or whatever. And I was like, you're not even bowl eligible yet, man. Let's pump the brakes on that.
It was
So I was
one
a
game
little
over
concerned that they
time.
were looking ahead a little bit, but they came out really sharp, played a great game. So, whatever works for them as long as they keep executing well.
all right, well, two last talking points before I let you guys get out of here. So first one is Frank Harris. He's generational for really any type of school, but especially for UTSA. Just can't say enough of what he's done and how he's changed the trajectory of the program and how much of a hand he's had in that. But obviously this is it. This is his last year. And is the heir to Frank Harris on the team right now? Was there enough for Marburger, to make you guys think that maybe it's him or McCown's son? Is the heir apparent to Frank Harris, or do you guys think this is a no-brainer? You're going to go grab someone from the portal to plug in and just hopefully keep the momentum going. But Jared, if you'll tee off first on that one.
For me, no brainer. Man, honestly, at the G5 level, I might say every year, every team should go get a transfer portal quarterback. You never know what you're going to hit on. I do like McCown a lot. I've been high on him for a while. For those that don't know, he started 4 games as a true freshman for a really, really bad Colorado team. Like all those guys that Dion ran off, like that's what Owen had to work with, and he looked really, really good doing it as a true freshman. He had a great performance on the road against Tennessee this year, but he's still young, so and he's still a little scrawny. He's got some weight to put on, so I'm high on him for sure, but I'm not ready to call him the heir just yet.
Mhm.
And I would just love to see them go out and get a guy who maybe had 6 good starts at Power 5 and lost his job to a 4-star player or something like that. And even if that guy doesn't become a starter, you're going to push Owen or Eddie, whoever it may be, to take that next step, because competition breeds greatness, and you're going to have a really strong backup to fall back on. And just like UNT saw this year, you thought you had a guy as your starter, but then you had a transfer portal quarterback who was actually a little bit better, and make that change, and that team takes off. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. I don't think I'll ever complain if UTSA ever go gets the transfer portal quarterback, especially one that has starting experience at the Power 5, which I think they should be able to do pretty consistently.
Jared, real quick before we get to Adrian, would you rather them go get a Power 5 quarterback that you got like you alluded to lost his job or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
as opposed to an FCS QB that
Mm.
really did well? What are your thoughts there out of those two options?
Yeah, I think I would usually go for the Power 5 guy. I just feel like UTSA's offense is like quarterback friendly enough that even someone who's maybe not as polished but has the raw skills, they could probably find a way to get that guy to be pretty productive, right? So I don't know. I think you can have success either way for sure, but if I were to pick, I would usually take the Power 5 guy. And they have had better coaching typically as well, so they're usually a little bit further ahead in their terminology and their ability to read differences and stuff like that.
Mhm. I think if you ask us this question in August, we tell you definitively that the heir apparent to Frank Harris is not on the roster. What we've seen through September from Owen McCowan, I think, makes a lot of UTSA fans really, really bullish on his future here. Whether that's having the starting position next year or the following, the guy throws the ball extremely well. He's extremely poised. The dude can take some beatings, move around a little bit. He just looked really dynamic in the games that we saw him play and the snaps that he's taken so far. And so I'm a big fan of Owen, but you have to bring a transfer portal quarterback in here to beef up that quarterback room competition in the offseason. I won't say it's Owen's job to lose. It's Owen's job to go and win. You got to bring a Power 5 quarterback in here to go and create that competition, and he's got to show that he deserves that spot, right? I think he's shown that he deserves that spot over Eddie Lee Marburger and what we've seen in play through September. But he needs to show that he can do it at another level and really earn the starting spot, not sort of be given it to it or fall into it. So, yeah, you bring in a Power 5 guy. I'm really bullish on Owen McCowan's future at UTSA. Really am.
I guess now that I think about it, like this would be the second Power 5 transfer they would have in the quarterback room after Owen, since he did come from Colorado.
You got your Power 5 transfer already. That's
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
So maybe go get the LCS guy,
Yeah.
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 Okay, last question. So again, gonna correlate this to Latrell's career a little bit. We saw, what happened with Latrell not taking the Kansas State job, all that stuff. And then what happened to Latrell after Fine, after life with Fine stopped. So again, you listen to Sick'em 365, they're throwing out, Trailor's gonna be a serious candidate for A&M or whatever the case may be, whether it's A&M or somewhere else. Do you think Trailor has that in his mind though, like, okay, this is the last year with Harris, a generational QB that he may want to cash out now, get out at the right time, or do you think there's still more years with Trailor, calling the shots? But Jared, what are your thoughts there?
I guess I wouldn't be surprised either way. I mean, you're totally right, Sonoe. It's very common to see these G5 coaches, but like this probably happened with Tulane as well. Like where they have that generational quarterback, they feel strongly they're going to go have another great season, and then you kind of pick your job. Whatever space available and it's open after that quarterback finishes their last year. So I'm sure that's got to factor into Trailor's decision making. I still feel like it's going to be based off what job is available, not so much what's on the roster at UTSA. You know what I mean? Like I just don't picture him leaving to go to, I don't, like Minnesota or like some random Syracuse, some random job like that, just because Frank's out of eligibility. But I think like if Baylor were to give him an offer or something like that, he might be more likely to take it now, where he might have passed on it a year or two ago. So yeah, I definitely think it's a factor, but he's still talking like he's going to be here long term. I think a lot of the viewers probably saw that UTSA had a student fee increase vote that failed, and I think a lot of coaches would have got on the podium and be like, I'm not getting the support I need, I'm out of here, whatever. But Traylor had a very thoughtful response. I think his quote was like, this is a comma, not a period. Like, we've got more work to do. We're ready to take on the challenge, stuff like that. So that was kind of reassuring for me. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. He seems content here, but I mean, I'm sure he saw what happened to Latrell. You got to take that money and that opportunity when it's there. But we'll see what comes open.
He's won a lot at UTSA. The opportunity is definitely going to be there. This is the guy that turned down Texas Tech midway through the season once upon a time, right? So I do think Trailor is going to be very selective on where he wants to go whenever he does graduate UTSA. And if it's a Baylor, if it's an A&M, sure. Is it a Houston? I mean, maybe. I don't know if Houston's going to want him with an 0-2 record against them. But
0-3,
0-2?
Was it 2? Yeah.
So if the right P5 gig in Texas opens up, sure, I think he takes it. Maybe even Arkansas, he could go back there. I don't know how Arkansas fan feels about Jeff Trailor at the end of that era that he was on staff for. But he's going to be more selective on where he goes. I don't think he's going to take just any job and any paycheck. I think he really, really does like what he has. And his recruits are now getting into the fold. And so does he want to see what he can do with his own guys and continue to sustain the winning with his own guys at UTSA? Sure, why not? But if they can go and be competitive towards the back end of the slate and go and win a bowl game, I don't think there's any reason to doubt that UTSA can't continue to sustain success into next season under Trailor, even losing to Frank Harris. I think it's still a team that's going to be over 500, competing for, bowl games and maybe not conference titles right away, but they'll be in the conversation as a contender, certainly. So he can still raise his stock, right, for that right Power 5 job whenever it does open, but he's going to be selective on what job he takes.
Well, all right, boys. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have fun watching the game, have some Adriaritas, and really enjoy yourselves. And but yeah, we'll see how it goes. And
yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah,
that was our
another classic we are in store for, man. Another classic.
I hope so. I hope there's another drive. Now there's a drive for each team. So Rogers needs his drive to.
Memphis got one now too, man.
Yeah, Memphis got one now too. Yeah, that happened. Yeah. But all right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Snow. It's always a pleasure.